Hello everyone, welcome back to Valley of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
And this is our August 2026 Block of the Month. And this month we're making a lily flower. If you've been with us all year, I hope you've noticed that we've tried to vary how we do the leaves and stems and you know, just giving you some chances to learn a little bit of different methods. And so this month, you can see we definitely have a different kind of stem where it's coming up and you're splitting the block. And we are going to do that in a moment. But first, Shelley's going to talk to you about what fabric you need.
Okay, so this year, as you hopefully know already, we have a focus fabric and it's Banyan Batiks Kaleidoscope Lime. And this is what you'll need to turn in the block for the drawing at the guild meeting. If you're not turning a block in, you don't need to use this fabric. You can if you want to, don't have to. And any of the fabrics, the flower, the stem, the background, any of these can be any colors you want. And the focus fabric can be used anywhere in the block also. So that's...
The only other thing that I wanted to mention in thinking of your color choices for this block, I kind of went back and forth on this part here, which we are calling the flower base. And you know, you can look at a lily and decide how you interpret it. We interpreted it as like the extension of the stem that covers the end of the flower. But you decide how you want to do it. Okay, right. Go on, Shelley.
Okay, so for the background fabric, you're going to need 2 pieces that are 2 inches by 6.5, 4 pieces that are 2 inches by 5 inches, 7 2.5-inch squares, and those are for the half square triangles, and 1 piece that has to go somewhere else.
Has to do with the stem.
Yeah. And then there's 3 2-inch squares and 1 7-inch square.
Which is this big one for the other part of the stem.
And then for flower 1, you need 3 3.5-inch squares. Those aren't
those are these big parts
right.
that have the stem part on it,
right?
The base on it.
In flower 2, you need 6 2.5-inch squares, and those are for the half square triangles. And then for the stem, you need one piece that is 1 inch by 10 inches, and 1 piece that is 1 inch by 3.5 inches. And then for the flower bases, you need 3 pieces that are 2.5-inch squares.
Okay, so we do have a fair amount of prep on this block. Okay, so our first thing that we're going to prep are our half square triangles. And the half square triangles are all of these parts of the outer part of the flower. So you're going to take a piece of background fabric that was, what, 2.5-inch square. And you're either going to draw one line on it, or like Shelley's sample sheet, which is just a sample, it's not her sample.
Right.
She draws 2 lines, and those are her stitching lines, and she's marked those 1/4 inch away from the center diagonal. Right. And for me, I just draw a line on the diagonal, and my sewing line is 1/4 inch away from that line. So I pair that up with a piece of my flower fabric, right sides together. I'm going to sew that 1/4 inch away from the diagonal. Then I'm going to cut on the diagonal. Then I'm going to go press the 2 new squares that I have, which will look something kind of like that. And we press the seams open on half square triangles. But I will have, it will be slightly oversized, and I'll have these a couple of flag things at the top, which I'll put a ruler with a 45-degree line on it with the line right on the diagonal. And I'm going to trim off first those little flags at one end. I'm going to turn it over, put that newly trimmed edge down on my mark for the 2.5 inches, and I'm going to trim off the extra. And then, voila, you have half square triangles.
And they should be 2 inches square.
Yes, you're trimming them to 2 inches square. All right, so we're going to come back and have those done, and then we'll move on to our next preparatory item. All right, feels like we made like 500 half square triangles, but it wasn't. It was only 8, 12, I don't know. Anyway, so now the next part that we have to do is to put these flower base piece on the flower, what number is that? Flower 1 fabric. So Shelly's going to show with hers.
Yeah.
And
You need to just,
so this is like a flippy coin.
yeah, you just need to put a diagonal line on your, what do you call this thing again? Flower base. And then sew on that line, and then you're going to make it into a flippy that's like this. And all 3 are exactly the same.
Right, so you draw that diagonal line, so right next to it, flip it over. Then if it looks like it fills the square, put it back, cut off to a 1/4 inch seam.
Press open.
You're done. And this is what it looks like when it's done. I accidentally already made mine, so. Sorry. All right, so we're going to come back with those done, and then we're going to work on the stems. Okay. All right, so our flower part extra things are done, and we're going to set those aside for a minute, and we're going to work on these stem pieces. So these are really simple to make, but we're going to go over it in 2 steps because the only tricky part is the lining up of the fabric and then how to trim it. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is take both of your stem pieces and fold them in half the long way and press to make a mark, just so you know where the half mark, the halfway on that piece is. On this small piece, the size I gave you for that stem, it's kind of exactly the right length, so you don't have any extra. Okay, so you're going to do the on the 2 background pieces, which is one of the 2.5 inch squares of background and the 7 inch square of background. And you're going to fold those and press on one diagonal of those. Then you're going to actually take those pieces, and so the diagonal is this way, and I am going to cut on the opposite diagonal, just just right, and get 2 pieces. I'm going to do that on both of those blocks, both of those squares. Lickety split. This is bumpy right here. Huh, that wasn't a good place to do it. Okay. So then, and I'll cut that one too in case, and maybe show that. So then I take the piece, I should have done with the big one first, and I line up right, I line that fold so they're together. Now these are right sides together, so think about that when you're pressing it. And they actually would fold together if I wanted to, because I have that fold, and that marks the half. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam right there. Don't press it, because you'll press out that seam. Don't press it yet. So now if I had it sewn, I'd have it like this, and I'm going to take this other half, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other half, where I'm going to, put that together with the other half, if I can get it on there, and then I'm going to have, so it's going to kind of be like this, how you sew it, but obviously, it would stay on there. I could let go. And you're going to end up with a piece that's sewn together roughly like this. And now, and using that press mark keeps that stem piece in the center. So that's what you need to do for both of these. There's just one is longer than the other. Otherwise, it's the exact same idea. So make sure you press on one diagonal, open it up, and then cut on the other diagonal. And it really is easier to press it first rather than try to find that middle afterwards. So, okay, so that's our next step. We're going to come back with those sewn on there. And I would press them towards the stem. So it kind of, I pressed them open. Ooh.
Whoa, why did you?
All right,
I did mine to the stem.
You did, and that worked when you sewed these 4 pieces together up here?
See, I did it.
She did do that. No, you pressed them open.
Oh, you're right, they are open.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, we'll press those seams open. Ignore what Shelly said.
I probably did originally and then changed it.
Yeah, it actually works okay at that point.
Yeah.
It's when you're trying to join these, this seam right here, that you really want them all pressed open. Okay. Okay, so now you should have 2 pieces that look very similar to these. If they don't, re-listen to the last segment. Okay, so this part is kind of like trimming a half square triangle, but a little fussier. And I'll say, should I don't want to point out errors in my own blog.
Yes, she does.
But I will. Your accuracy here will matter a lot if you want your stem to look like it attaches up here. And even if and I actually did this one correctly, but I actually made the mistake later on when I was sewing the piece to this block. But if you have this wrong, it's never going to work. Okay, so you're going to take, let's start with a bigger one. Look at something bigger. Okay, so I have this, and remember this started as a 7-inch block. And when we're done with making our partial block, these are going to be 4 6.5-inch pieces. So we started with a 7-inch block. It's roughly about 7 inch still, even though we added this piece in the middle because of how we took out seam allowance. But we want it down to 6.5. So I'm going to take, and there's a diagonal line on a square up ruler, and I'm going to put that diagonal line right down the center of the stem, okay? And I got to eyeball that center of the stem. And then I need to make sure that when I'm looking at this top part, that I can get a whole corner, that I'm not missing any fabric right up here. And then I'm going to trim off that edge. So it's a nice straight 2 sides. Then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to put that new edge that I just made at my 6.5-inch mark, which is like right here. Okay, and obviously I haven't trimmed it. And then I'm going to still, this is the key, make sure you keep that diagonal line down the center of the stem. Look at it. Make sure it looks like you've got a whole corner up there, and trim that off. And so you end up with a 6.5-inch square. Okay, so on the small one, we do the exact same thing. And you could use the big ruler. I'm just using a smaller ruler because it's easier to manipulate. This one is more likely to be missing some at the top because the length of the piece was a little shorter. So I have to stick it out just a little bit. So I'm going to trim, I'm going to have something to trim on this whole edge probably. But it's still big enough because I need this one to trim down to the same size as the others, which was a 2-inch square, I think.
Is it 2 or?
Yeah, it should be whatever our corner pieces are here. Are those 2.5? Those are 2-inch squares.
2-inch.
2-inch squares.
2-inch.
Yeah, so we've got plenty of extra because it's almost 2. It started at 2.5, and it's really still about 2.5 right now. So I'm going to trim that down, then turn it around, make sure that diagonal, that 45-degree line on my ruler stays there, and then move this up to the 2-inch and trim that extra off. And then you're good.
Should we come back with all that done and laid out how it goes?
Yes, yes. So then, and we've been telling you this kind of most of the year, to take the pieces that you have now, after we trim those, and lay them on a board. I don't either of us have a board up here, but you know, something that you can take with you between your pressing area and your sewing machine and your cutting area, and have all the pieces in the right place, and hopefully they look right. And we will come back and have that, and have everything trimmed and ready to go. Okay, so we need 3 6.5-inch parts. 1 is done. All right.
Yes.
Let's get the other 3 done. So I have mine up here with all my pieces on my layout board. Shelly just has our next step. So in the next step, you're going to take and you're going to make pairs with each of these half square triangles that we made. And the way you're going to pair them is you're going to pair it so that there's 2 background edges touching. And to be honest, it doesn't matter which 2, just you're going to touch 2 together and you're going to sew that seam. Then and press them open. On half of these pairs, at the end, you're going to sew the
Last three.
What size are those? 2-inch
Squares.
3 2-inch squares to the end, to the left. Is that the left edge? The right edge. The right side of 3 of those pairs. Okay, and we'll come back, and then everything should actually fit on your board a little better.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we have our flower parts all kind of put together. We're ready to just make the main part of the flower. And all 3 are exactly the same. So even though they're turned in here, orient them the same. So put your flower base so it's down to the bottom right. And at the top, you're going to sew one of the 2-part flower petal pieces of the half square triangles that we just made. Sew that to the top and press that seam open. And then you're going to sew, no, actually you don't press that seam open. You press that seam toward the flower 1, or the flower 1 piece. And then you're going to, because on these ones, I guess I forgot to mention this. When you add that white, or that background piece to this 2-part, you can press it to that background piece. So if you've done that, then press this like I said. If you pressed it open, then you need to press this seam open. Okay, so sorry about that. So you're going to add that, press it to the flower 1 part. Then you're going to add this other piece to the left side of the block and press that. I think that one you press open. Yeah, press it open. So yeah, because we're starting to have a lot more triangle pieces coming together. Okay, so then you should end up with 3 of those flower sections. All right, so now it's super simple what we have to do here.
We should mention that these are...
Oh yeah, the part that we just completed should be
5-inch square.
5-inch squares. Okay, so now we're going to make the final part of the flowers. 2 of these sections go together exactly the same, and Shelley's going to explain that part.
Okay, if you orient them the same way we had it before, with this part over on your right, then you sew the shorter of the background pieces, because now we have just 2 lengths of background pieces left. The shorter one over on to your left side, then you have that done, and then you sew
press that to the background.
Right, press it to the background, and then you sew the other one to the top and press that to the background again.
Okay, so then those 2 go catty corner from each other on your tape, on your layout board. So the last one, the one that's kind of elevated, Lily, this one, what we're going to do is you're going to take and sew, first you're going to sew the little stem piece to one, they're the same size, one of these 2 background pieces. Let's say we're sewing it to the one that's on the bottom. And that one, press to the background. Then take the background piece that's oriented to the left and sew that one onto the side of the flower block that we just made and press that to the background. Now, after those are pressed, you're going to sew this piece with the stem to the rest of the flower block, and that seam, and those should nest together if you press them like we suggested. And after you sew those together, press that seam open. And we're going to come back with our 4 patches. All right, these are really starting to look like flowers. So, last step.
Wait a minute, I want to make a comment here. If you had to trim these, because these need to be 6.5-inch squares, this one here you should be careful of, that you don't trim it to make it so your corners aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch that corner.
Yeah.
Where the stem.
You might want to try and keep this edge and this edge as your straightest, because in theory right now maybe it is. I'm not sure. You know, it depends on how you sew. But then when I trim mine, I tried to keep this so I didn't have to touch this corner at all.
Or if you do, make sure that the point stays on that diagonal line.
Yeah,
That
still in the center.
The center and the,
Yeah.
which obviously I didn't do on mine, but you know.
It's probably still, you know, might not still come out perfect. But
Right. So now we're just going to sew these 4 patches together, and you're going to sew, you know, 2 together, top and bottom, and then press that seam. I'm going to say we pressed it. Oh, nope, we pressed them opposite. And then put those 2 together. And when you're ready to put the final seam together, watch how that matches where that seam, the stems come together, because you really want them to look like it's a straight stem. All right, so we're going to come back with our finished block. All right, there's our finished block. Looks good.
It does.
Turned out good. All right, so this block, if you're turning them in for our drawing at the guild meeting, are due at the September meeting. And hope to see you there. And hope to see you again here next month for our September block.